How did you overcome any fears, such as potentially not making money or walking away from a career to start your own business?
If I was a limited company, then I can't write that off against my own tax. I can only take a little bit of a dividends from them, and then I can't get money back. So setting up a company is relatively easy. Anybody can do it. If you wanted to be a plasterer, if you wanted to be a brickie, if you wanted to be a mechanic, and you're going to do it all by yourself, then it's fine. You can jump on, you can get registered as self-assessed, and then at the end of the year, around about April time, or January time actually, you have to then send off your how much you've earned, how much you've lost, and then they work out the rest of it. Now, our 10-year plan is to get a base of some sort, whether that be a nice big woodland that I'm looking at, putting a porta cabin down on it, and then teaching kids from that. That might be the next tick, yeah, which is probably going to be that. And then my 15 and my long year plan is to stretch the company out over abroad, so that we've got multiple different places around the world. Thinking of something like Portugal, Spain. So we're not just stuck to Wales. We're going to have hopefully an international business, and that's our 15-year plan, which we've got another 5 years to get it done.
Yeah.
So I better get my button gear and start moving on it.
So hi Pete. If you'd just like to give a quick introduction about yourself, please.
Yeah. So I'm Peter Savage. I run a small company called Savage Ventures. We're based all across the bottom of Wales, from kind of the Forest of Dean all the way across to Pembrokeshire. We run activities such as like coasteering, climbing, canyoning, mountain biking, stand-up paddleboarding, kayaking, the lot really. So yeah, we've been running now for about 10 years, and yeah, feel free to ask me any questions and I'll try my best to answer it.
Okay, so if we get started on the early life, what was your school education like, and where did you go to school?
Funnily enough, I went to school at Crossy Uh, I was there back before it was before all the buildings changed around. But well, earlier than that, started in Malpas Church down in Malpas, so not too far away. And then my secondary school then was Crossy and I'm sure quite a few of the teachers are probably still there from when I was there.
How did school set you up to run a business, and was there a teacher that inspired you to start up the business?
So I wasn't very academic. I'm sure any of the teachers that are probably still there would probably say that I was probably not the best behaved school, the best behaved pupil, but I was always pretty good at giving everything a go. I would personally probably say there was a few teachers that really stuck through it and really helped me out, and they might even still be there. So you've got the PE department, which is Mr. Sainsbury's, Mr. Price. You had some in the chemistry, which was Mr. Buckley. Um, any of those lot, I'm not sure if any of them are still there, but they definitely stuck through it when I was probably not being the best behaved or the most engaged in school.
Who were your influences in your life to start up your own business and developing your interest in your field?
Well, so there's hundreds of kind of sporting influences that I've kind of taken kind of examples of, like Adam Ondra and stuff like that with the climbing, and Danny McCaskill with the biking and stuff like that. But none of it really kind of took to a businessy side to it. I was kind of pushed into the businessy side by not wanting to give up. I wouldn't really say that I follow anybody in particular, but there's definitely quite a few people that that I like to look at, like businessy people, like Simon Sinek and stuff like that. They're really interesting to get in and have a look at, because they're more business focused rather than the outdoorsy focused.
Yeah. What did you want to be when you was younger?
Ooh, when I was in school, roughly around about your age, I wanted to be a marine biologist. Yeah, so I wanted to study animals and the sea and stuff like that. And then as I kind of got towards the end of school, I wanted to be a paramedic. But my grades weren't at the level back then. Being a dyslexic boy from Newport, I wasn't really destined to be a paramedic. But then I went to US College and I did outdoor education there. Um, and so yeah, I wanted to be a marine biologist originally, and then a paramedic, and then kind of jumped into the outdoors really because it's fun.
Yeah. Did you study business in schools as GCSE, A level, or at university standard?
No, I didn't. So I first of all, I didn't go to A levels. I was I went to college instead. Um, but then when I went to uni, I studied outdoor education and adventurous activities in Carmarthen in Trinity St David's. So none of the everything that I've learned from the business has been self-taught because I've never had any business coaching on it.
Yeah. Do you have any sporting achievements?
Ooh, yeah. I used to when I was well, I've had I've been lucky really. I've had a few as I've been growing up. So when I was between the ages of around about 11 to 12, I used to be a professional swimmer. Um, maybe a little older than that, maybe 15. I used to be a professional swimmer, and then I got bored of that, and then started playing water polo. And I was very fortunate then to become Welsh and Great British team for water polo for a while. And then as I've progressed on, then as I got a bit older, I started doing a bit of mountain biking. Got quite lucky with doing some mountain bike racing. Um, and then in 2018, I got lucky enough to go out and do some crazy stuff with Adidas and 510 to jump off cliffs, really really big cliffs, um, to to be a sponsored athlete through that way as well.
If we go on to career development now, did you
Okay,
have a strategy to follow when you started your career? Did you plan it out?
loosely, uh, as in it's always good to have goals, set far-reaching goals, but always be happy if they change. Sometimes the goals come a little bit sooner. Sometimes they weren't achievable at all, and maybe the goals weren't kind of achievable at the start. Um, but yeah, I set out some goals. I've got when I set up my business, I set out a 5-year plan, a 10-year plan, and then a 15-year plan, and we achieved our 10-year plan within 5 years. So everything then kind of shifted. But then obviously the world turned a little bit crazy in 2019, and so with COVID and stuff like that, then it meant that our rearranged plans then still are in the works. So um, yeah, made a plan, but didn't necessarily haven't always stuck to it. I'm not very good at keeping to plans.
How did you start your career and what did you do?
So I was about 16 in college, and as a taster day, we went to the Four Waterfalls walk where we were going to do some gorge walking. And while we were there was another company that was up there. And bear in mind, this was my very first ever day in the river. I just walked up to them and I said, "Hey, I'm looking for some experience. I'd really like to get into this. How do I follow it through?" And they were like, "If you can get up here for next Saturday, you can have a day in with us." And so me on my little moped decided to leave all the way from Malpas. Took me an hour and a half to do a what is now a half an hour drive. on my little moped, screaming up and over the mountains, with all my kit on the back. And then from there, I was up there pretty much every weekend, working in the river and gaining experience.
What's the biggest thing you have learned from your career?
Biggest thing I have learned: things don't go to plan, and if they don't go to plan, change the plan. There's no point in sticking to a plan if it's not working.
Yeah.
And the other thing as well is, as I'm getting older and I'm becoming a little bit more mature in some respects, not always, uh, is ask for help. Like, business is a very weird thing. Same with setting up a podcast. Same with doing anything in school. If you don't know it, don't be ashamed to ask, because if you've never done it before, you shouldn't feel like you need to know the answer, because
Yeah.
if it's the very first time, then I'm sure it's not somebody else's first time doing it, and they've probably got a bit of advice. You haven't got always got to take the advice. Sometimes the advice isn't always in your best interest, but at the same time, it's always handy to ask for help, really.
Yeah. When did you decide that you wanted to start your own business?
Ooh, so I set up my business by accident. Yeah. What happened was, I was in university in 2015, and me and my lecturer at the time got into a bit of a heated discussion over what I wanted to do next. So we were doing a module called Our Next Steps. From that, it says, what do you want to do after you finish uni? And most people was, I'm going to get a job. I'm going to go work for PGL. I'm going to go work for somebody else. Well, at that point, I'd already been working as an outdoor instructor for about 4 years. And I was like, I don't really want to be an instructor. I want to run my own business. So after this bit of a heated discussion, bit of an argument back and forth, I was like, no, I'm going to do it. I'm going to put my foot down. I'm going to set up my own business as a bit of a protest. And now, 10 years on, we're still doing the company, and we're still running, and it's growing. But I did it in March. That's when I decided I wanted to set up a company. It was March 2015, off the back of an argument, just to prove somebody wrong.
How did you raise the capital to start your business?
Ooh, so from 16, I used to be a lifeguard, and I used to work in a Chinese takeaway as well, up in New Inn. And so all the way through my 16 up until I was about 20, I was working. I was working every weekend, and so what I'd do is I'd always put a little bit of money aside. Yeah. So out of all, because I was still young enough, I wasn't paying taxes and stuff back then. Then my parents used to take a little bit of money off me, and they'd put it into a pot. And then when I wanted to set up my business, the first thing I bought was a load of climbing kit, and it cost me like £2,000, something like that. But because I'd been working and been taking 10% off it every time, which is, or 20% when you're an adult and you start getting taxed, because I was used to that money coming off anyhow, then, and it was just going into a savings pot, then I'd managed to put money aside. So I was never, I never had to think about, oh, do I need to raise capital? I didn't have to approach the banks. I didn't have to go get a loan. I didn't have to borrow money off anybody. I was lucky because I was working that I'd already saved up that money and that capital to have it kind of squirreled away, ready for a rainy day. And there it was, ready to start up, and off we went.
Yeah. How did you overcome any fears, such as potentially not making money or walking away from a career to start your own business?
Ooh. So the hardest thing about that is you've got to give it a go, in the sense of, sometimes you just got to bite the bullet. Sometimes you just got to give it a go and not necessarily worry about failure, because at the end of the day, if you worry about the failures all the time, you probably never get anything done. our job, like as an outdoor instructor, is full of risk. What we do is we look at the risks and we try to minimize those risks. We can't remove the risks. Same as climbing, falling off the edge of a cliff. Well, the way you minimize it is you put a harness on. So coming back to the business kind of side to it, not making business, well, or not making money from it, that's part of the risk. But the rewards from doing that are you end up having a company that's got loads of awards and stuff like that. So is it worth taking the risk? Give it a go, isn't it? What are you going to lose? You the little bit of money you invested into the start of it.
Yeah.
Like the beauty of it is the kit that I bought is a tangible asset. Yeah, in the sense of if that business doesn't make any money, I'll just sell that kit off, and then I'll get most of my money back. I won't get it all back, but I would gain a bit of experience from it. And that's the same position we're in now. If the company decides to collapse tomorrow, hope it doesn't, but if it collapses tomorrow, I can then go take all of those 40 surfboards, all of those kayaks, all of the wetsuits, and I'll sell it on to somebody else. And at least then I'll make some of my money back off it. I won't make it all back, but everything that we've bought is paid for. So everything now is profit.
Yeah.
But you've got to take those risks. Yeah. Like the SAS, who dares wins, isn't it? If you don't chance it, you've got nothing to lose.
Yeah. If you were to shut down the business and to take up a job back in industry, would you take up a similar job to what you do in your business, or would you take up a different job?
Ooh, good question. Right. So if I was to shut it down, I'd probably stay outdoorsy. I like on the side of being a business owner and stuff like that. I'm a teacher as well, so Monday to Thursday I teach, and then Fridays, Saturdays, Sundays I work for myself. So would I go back into something similar? Probably yes. I'd probably move abroad, probably go become a diving instructor, and know live on some tropical beach with a pina colada in one hand and a scuba diving tank and mask in another. But I wouldn't. I don't think I could go in an office. I think that going back to a closed office or a classroom full time would probably drive me crazy.
Have you done any voluntary work or work with any charities?
Yes. So we, when I was your age, I used to volunteer and I used to work in a scout group, which probably also got me into the outdoorsy stuff. So I used to run and manage a scout group down in Newport when I was younger. But now we work with quite a few charities. One that I signed the paperwork on yesterday with is a Swansea-based men's mental health charity, trying to get men to talk out about things. Obviously, we work with an absolute range of charities, female, male, everything in between charities. However, one of the ones which we signed with yesterday is a men's mental health charity about getting people that have domestic abuse and relationship problems and bereavement and try to put them into outdoors to help them kind of overcompensate things like that.
Yeah. Have you had any setbacks in the business?
Oh, yes, we've had a few. Obviously, in 2018, unfortunately, we had a big one. My house got broken into, and they stole my van. I'd packed the van up the night before with all the equipment, and yeah, they took my van with all of my wetsuits, all of my buoyancy aids, all of my helmets in, and unfortunately, we never got that back. So yeah, that was a huge setback. That was about £14,000 worth of kit gone, and we had to then claw it all back, as well as I also lost the van as well. So I had no transport, I had no equipment, and I'd had people walking around my house stealing stuff.
Yeah.
So that was a big one. And then obviously, as the whole world had that huge setback in 2019, 2020, where I then had to change careers for a little bit. I was a full-time outdoor instructor before COVID hit. And then when that hit, obviously I had to still put a roof over my head and feed myself. So I dropped into teaching because I already had a teaching qualification. So decided that maybe the outdoors isn't as stable as it should be, and had to fall back into teaching. And now I teach, like I say, 4 days a week, but pupil referral units and SPF groups and stuff like that.
Yep. We can move on to business now. What has been the biggest challenge running the business?
The biggest challenge is either it's either two things. It's always people. People are the hardest thing to work with. Yeah. If I didn't have to work with people, it would be easy. But the business is taking people out. Is either finding staff, yeah, as what we do is a very niche topic. What we need to do is I need to train the staff up, and most of the time they come to us with a little bit of experience here and a little bit of experience here, and somehow I've got to get them to being the best instructor that I can possibly get out of them. And so the only way I could do that initially is train myself up so that I can be that stopgap in the middle to train them up to being it. And then the other thing then is trying to get people to book on. Social media is probably the biggest bane of my life. I hate it. Facebook, TikTok, Instagram, it is an absolute nightmare. The amount of hours that I spend late in the evening trying to come up with something catchy on Facebook to go with a picture is hard work. I'm not the greatest with social media. So I think that's probably our biggest challenge is people. But they are also the most rewarding. When you get those reviews back, it kind of compensates for those days that you spend till 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning writing emails while falling asleep at your keyboard, trying to get them booked on.
How did you actually start up the business, and what is required to start a business for someone who may want to start their own?
Okay, so setting up a business isn't too hard. If you want to be a small company like myself, then the easiest thing you do is you jump on to the government site, onto the government gateway, and you register as self-assessed. That's it. Pretty simple. Obviously, depending on the business you want to jump into, you might want to then jump into either being a sole trader, or you might want to jump into a limited company. We haven't gone to a limited company at the moment because if you start looking around and start reading into it, then it depends on the size of your business and how much money you're going to turn over, depends on how much tax you want to pay into it. The beauty of staying as at the moment as a sole trader, any losses the company makes, so paying for fuel, paying for wetsuits, paying for kayaks, paying for any of the equipment, comes back off my tax. So it means at the end of the year, I say I've earned X amount, let's say £30,000, but I've spent £40,000 on equipment. Then what happens then is the tax man gives me some money back for that. If I was a limited company, then I can't write that off against my own tax. I can only take a little bit of a dividends from them, and then I can't get money back. So setting up a company is relatively easy. Anybody can do it. If you wanted to be a plasterer, if you wanted to be a brickie, if you wanted to be a mechanic, and you're going to do it all by yourself, then it's fine. You could jump on, you can get registered as self-assessed, and then at the end of the year, around about April time, or January time actually, you have to then send off your how much you've earned, how much you've lost, and then they work out the rest of it. If you want to do it though, you've got to have that mindset. Nobody is going to be as interested in your business as you are. It's your little baby. You grow it. You got to feed it really small stuff at the start, and then as you start getting bigger, as it starts getting bigger, you can then start feeding it bigger and bigger groups, more and more people, and then it can start growing and growing and growing.
Yeah. What specific government regulations do you have to comply with? And when you provide your documents to companies, houses, including accounts, how difficult is it to comply and provide these documents?
If you are critical with it and you keep on top of it, it's very easy. So we have to apply by Health and Safety at Work Act of 2006. Sorry, we have to apply with ALA regulations, which is the Adventurous Activities Licensing Authority. That's if we want to work with school kids, anybody under the age of 18, or people with special needs, then we have to agree to those qualification to that remit, and so we have to submit stuff over to the HSE, which is the government, and then they regulate us to make sure that we're operating safely. If you are stay on top of it with your risk assessments and your operating procedures and the emergency procedures, it's relatively easily. Yeah, anybody can do it, but you've got to stay on top of it. They've got to keep getting updated. They've got to stay in check. So it's just taking that time out now and again to stay on top of it.
Yeah. Can you talk about the services that your business offers and why did you choose to start that business?
Okay, so we originally started off doing climbing. Climbing was going to be our little thing, and then very, very quickly we then looked at the market, and then we started providing quite a lot of water activities like the coasteering and the climbing, at the coasteering and the canyoning, sorry, where we're jumping off the waterfalls into the sea or stuff like that. And the reason that we wanted to provide that is, one, it's fun. Two, they're very they can be challenging. And I think that's what people look for when they want to come out for an activity. They want to do something different. They want to be challenged. They want to be pushed out their comfort zone. And those activities we found had the highest risk reward. The risk that we were taking would gain the most benefit out of it. And I think people really enjoyed those activities. So then we started then expanding, and now we run surfing. Because somebody that's never stood up on a surfboard, when they get that first wave that they catch, it's a rush for them. Yeah. So the reason that we do our activities is purely so that the people that come with us can have an absolutely amazing experience. We're looking for that stretch and that challenge. So everybody that comes with us, everybody's got a comfort zone, and we're looking to stretch that comfort zone. We want to push people out of their comfort zone and get them to get over the anxiety and get over those nerves and come back glowing, grinning from ear to ear.
How do you plan to grow the business? How do you plan to grow the business, and how can you make further profit?
Okay, so I always think of ergonomic growth. So growing at a rate in which you can sustain it. Yeah. So you see a lot of these companies, which are the Fortune 500 companies, that grow absolutely quickly overnight, and they boom up, and then all of a sudden in the next 10 years they've disappeared. I'm not all about that. I'd like to always provide quality over quantity. Yeah, imagine like a sausage factory where the meat goes in one side and the people come out the other side. The sausages come out the other side. We don't want that. We want people coming in, having an amazing experience, and coming out having felt like they've gained something. At any point the business feels like we're just churning people through for money is the time in which the business is kind of not doing what I want it to do. So
Yeah.
to make more money, grow nice and slowly at a rate that we can keep up with it, and the fact that we can keep the staff happy, keep the clients happy, keep everybody happy, and if you look after the pennies, the pounds will look after themselves. We'll slowly get there.
Can you explain the different types of profit for a business and how you look to capitalize on profits, and what trends you to look at to ensure you do?
Okay, so different types of profit. So per the activities, each of the activities has got its own kind of range of profit. We used to provide mountain biking, but it wasn't gaining as much profit per person as much as we wanted to. So unfortunately, we dropped the biking because you've always got to, as much as it's a fun activity, you've always got to balance that bottom line. And as soon as we started spending more on parts and stuff like that, it became then a liability because we'd end up running a biking session for 4 hours. People would be having a great time going off jumps and drops, but they'd end up breaking stuff. And then after that, I'd end up spending 8 hours fixing stuff. So the profit margins on that weren't the greatest. Yeah. What we look at then is our net profit of what we're gaining at it and the total profit. Yeah. So if an activity is going to cost, I don't know, 130 quid for the instructor, it's going to cost 80 quid for repairing all the parts afterwards. You're still looking at, you need to make a minimum then of 210 quid per activity just to make even. Yeah. If it's not making that, we'll just drop it because I don't do it for free.
Yeah. Do you have a long-term strategic plan for the business? And if so, what does this strategy look like and how do you formulate this?
Cool. So, like I said earlier, we've got these 5-year, 10-year, 15-year plans. Now, the 5-year plan was to get our ALA license, which allows us to work with kids and be able to take out the youth to do all the different activities. We did that. Big tick in the box. Yeah. Now, our 10-year plan is to get a base of some sort, whether that be a nice big woodland that I'm looking at, putting a porta cabin down on it, and then teaching kids from that. That might be the next tick, yeah, which is probably going to be that. And then my 15 and my long year plan is to stretch the company out over abroad so that we've got multiple different places around the world. Thinking of something like Portugal, Spain. So we're not just stuck to Wales. We're going to have hopefully an international business, and that's our 15-year plan, which we've got another 5 years to get it done.
Yeah.
So I better get my button gear and start moving on it because we've already started looking at projects abroad. The hardest bit now is finding the people that want to go do it.
Yeah. How have you and how do you develop sustainable and strategic partnerships to develop your business?
Your reputation will always lead before you. Like I said earlier, we provide quality over quantity. Yeah. And what happens then is our partnerships with other businesses, they then tend to approach us and say, hey, we'd like to work with you. We've heard from somebody else that you've done a really good job. And then we follow that through. And then it goes by word of mouth. We always try to give everybody the best experience we can. And then hopefully they'll go away and they'll recommend us to somebody else. Our partnerships with other companies, we're fortunate really. We've got a long-term contract with Inspire Training in Swansea. We've got a partnership with Swansea Council where we come in and provide the activities for them. We've got partnerships with Dulwich College up in just outside of London where we do stuff with them as well. And because they're happy with the product that we provide and they know that we do it we give 110% on everything, then they come back. That our relationships with them are doing well because we employ and put on instructors that are passionate about what they do, and because they enjoy it, the kids enjoy it, and if the kids enjoy it, the teachers are happy. The teachers are happy, they come back.
Yeah. Can you talk to me about how you plan for the year ahead, how you recruit staff, and how you ensure excellent customer service?
Cool. So all of our planning takes place usually over the winter. So during the winter, I to be honest, I use social media these days. I find out instructors, or I meet them out on the activities, and I say to them like, "Hey, do you want to come work for us?" And most of the time they're like, "Yep, pretty keen." Then during the quiet periods, like January, February time, we get out, we get into the water, we get onto the rocks, we get into the sea, and we train everybody up to a really high standard. Like the minimum, you got the minimum standard for running the activities, but we don't care about the minimum. We want to be the best. So therefore, we provide our staff with the best that we can afford. Yeah, and so that they become overqualified for what they need to. But what that does then is it makes them really, really confident in them. So we do a lot of our planning. Like, so I plan ahead from from November when the season starts shutting down. I start looking for staff. Come January, February, I've got my team ready for the year, and then I start training them up. And
Yeah.
I've always thought that if you invest in the staff will invest in you. So what we do is we pay for half the qualifications for the staff, so that it's not a burden for them on the cost. And then because then we've helped them out financially, then they're more inclined to work for us and be loyal to us and stuff like that.
Yeah. Now on to plans for the future. Where do you see yourself in 5 to 10 years? Where do you want the business to be?
Oh, cool. Abroad. That's where I want to be. Somewhere nice and sunny, looking at the sea, a few kayaks floating off into the distance with people being led by instructors, a few diving groups going out via boats, as well as running everything back here. Like I said before, we've got the 5-year plan, the 10-year plan, and the 15-year plan, and the plans are to make sure that in the next few years we're going to be hopefully going abroad, hopefully having a few bases in the UK, but at the same time still taking bookings with everything that we've got going on still here. So yeah, it's a slow plan though, and I'm happy if it changes, because I never want to rush anything and make something that's going to be rubbish. If it's going to be rubbish and it's going to give us a bad rep, I don't want it. So if I get to this 15-year plan and the plans change, then they change. There's no point sticking to it if it ain't so.
Yeah. Do you have plans to pass the business on to your children, or would you sell the business when you decide to retire?
Children. Oh, I haven't got any kids yet, so I don't think they'll thing. But it's very hard. I've put my name on the business, so it's quite hard to sell a business that has got somebody else's name on it. Would I sell it? I don't know. I've got no plans of selling it. It's something that is going to require somebody is equally committed to myself in order to take it over. If somebody wanted to take it over, it's a lot of hours. It's a lot of unsung hours that you put into it. So would somebody want to buy it? I don't know. Hopefully, when the business is even bigger and it's running itself, then we might find somebody that wants to buy it. But I would absolutely love to pass that on to my kids. But at the same time, they'd probably curse at me for the amount of hours that they've got to put into it to keep it going.
If you were to set up another business, what business would it be?
Ooh, so another business. It would probably be a business in which we sell like clothing or something like that, apparel, just because I find the hardest thing that we've got with the current business is that it always requires myself or one of the instructors to be there. So we can only run it on days in which we've got people for it. If I was to run another business, probably do something with like something easy in the sense of making some clothing. People can buy it as and when. They could buy it in the middle of the night if they want to. We could ship it out nice and easy if we had to do something like that. But at the moment, I I'm fortunate in the sense I've got 3 separate companies that all require people on the ground providing it, and it's always having to find staff for it. So I'd probably find something a little bit easier.
Yeah. Now, I did miss a few business questions, so if I just quickly go back to those ones.
You crack on, buddy.
What do you do to promote the business, and how do you engage with other people?
So we promote mainly on social media, so Instagram, TikTok, Facebook, and then LinkedIn for all of our businessy groups. We make social media content. We try to keep up with the trends and stuff like this. I've got a social media marketing employee that makes me do all these silly TikTok dances and jumps and all this crazy stuff just to fit with the trends. Well, I try to, although I'm not very good at it. Not very up to date with it all. But yeah, that's how we kind of advertise ourselves. But we also advertise ourselves with word of mouth. Most of the time, people will come on an activity and they'll come back home and they'll say to their family, "Oh, you got to go try that. That was really cool." And then they end up booking back again, and we end up kind of getting this big old like word of mouth train that kind of brings the next person in, and then the next person, and then yeah, that's how we kind of do it.
What characteristics do you need to run a business, and what are yours?
You've probably got to have a screw loose somewhere up there. It's if you want to run your own business, it's a lot of hours, especially if you want to be successful. Like I'm privileged to say that the business has been successful, but that's based on putting a lot of hours in. I think a lot of people see about 1 or 2% of the overall thing that goes on, and from that, you've got to have that hard work, that drive in you. There's days in which you open up your computer and you're just like, I cannot be bothered. Yeah, it's probably the same as you when you get in and you've got your homework to get done, and you're like, I just can't be bothered with this. You know, screw this. I'm going to go play on the PlayStation instead. But
Yeah.
sometimes you've just got to switch into that, break up that cycle, and just go for it. You've got to be work driven. You've got to be probably intrinsically motivated for it. So in the sense of you've got to have that desire to do it. If you're looking for that extrinsic motivation, which is like the money, the fame, anything like that, you're going to be searching for it, and it makes it a lot harder. But if you can mentally put yourself into that place and just crack on with it, you can have a good time, and then hopefully at the end of it, you can look back and see all the rewards and all the trophies and stuff like that.
Yeah. What are your biggest strengths and weaknesses?
Ooh, biggest strength is probably that I'm confident in talking to people. I don't mind making a fool of myself. Yeah. It's probably also my weakness, is I probably make a fool of myself. Yeah. But I'm lucky and I'm privileged to say that because I surround myself with like-minded people, that actually everybody that I'm friends with and that I work with is there because we're all at the same kind of we're all there for the same reason. So my biggest strength is surrounding myself with absolutely amazing, qualified, intelligent people. Never be afraid to surround yourself with intelligent people, because they will drag you up, and motivated people. If you surround yourself with people that have got no drive, if you surround yourself with people that haven't got a clue of what they want to do or don't have any passion of anything, you're going to get lured into that. So I surround myself with the smartest people that I can find. But then I also don't mind making a fool of myself and making mistakes. And going through business, I've made hundreds of mistakes. Things don't always work out the first time around. But actually, my strength is that doesn't matter what happens, I'll always get back up and give it another go or try a different way. I think that comes from being dyslexic with it, is that I often can't spell the word that I want it to do, and so I'll find another way around it. If I've got to spell something that's too big for my brain to comprehend, I'll think of a different word. I'll rewrite the whole sentence just so I've got to spell that word. Yeah. Same with business. If you can't figure the way of getting to it, find a different way around it. If you constantly keep just trying to brute force your way through the same way, you're going to get stuck and you just stay there.
Yeah. What are your business values and principles? What underpins your business, and how do you ensure your business message is delivered to all customers?
Our business ethos is to just be as best as we can be, in the sense of I don't strive to be the best. We're playing what I like to call the infinite game. Yeah, so you've either got an infinite game or a finite game. And the infinite game is you're playing it, you're absolutely having a good time. You're just doing it because we want to be there. The staff want to be there. They don't want to be pushed into something that they don't want to do. Yeah. But the finite game is if you ain't winning, then you're not the best. Yeah. So we always just keep playing the game. Yeah. And that every other company then that is trying to play to win will then always come unstuck, because they'll either run out of money, they'll run out of time, they'll run out of effort. And our business ethos is just to be the best that we can possibly be, provide the safest, the most fun, the most educational trips and experiences we possibly can, and everything else will come in time. If you strive for just being the utter best every time, if you ain't the best, you're going to feel like you're not winning, and if you're not winning, then it kind of it's hard to get motivated.
Yeah. Do you allocate budgets for the year, including contingency funds and investment funds for the future?
Yes. So at the start of the year, I roughly work around how much the base cost of everything's going to be: insurance, kit depreciation, um, expanding kind of costs. And then from that, what we do then is if we need it, then we've got the budget for it. It's kind of hard because we don't have contractual values, in the sense of we're not receiving like a set amount of funding each year. So we've got to always be flexible with those plans, based on what people are, how many people book onto the sessions, really. So if obviously the more people book onto it, the more we can expand. If we don't, but obviously I've got to always cover those base costs, like keeping those insurance and stuff like that.
Yeah. How are you going to invest in the business even further, and in what direction?
Okay, so this last month we've just invested absolutely heavily into the business. We've just bought loads more kit. But going forward, we've just set aside a few thousand now, ready to start looking at getting some property that we can then base our next kind of plan on. So our next plan soon is that we're going to be providing qualifications through ourselves, so that students then will be able to come along and get level 1 qualifications in outdoor education, because there's a huge gap in the market. Not only for a gap in the market, but there isn't enough outdoor instructors coming through. And if somebody isn't going to step up and take it, we'll take that challenge, and we'll go that direction. It's a bit of a little bit of a curveball from what we've been usually doing, but if somebody's not going to fill in that gap, then I will.
Yeah.
So that's where we're going to kind of expand to, and think over the next 12 months, really.
Now, that's all the questions I have for today. So if we move on to the quick fire questions that I have before then we wrap it all up.
Excellent. You go for it, buddy.
What book would you recommend if you were to recommend one?
Ooh, book. I'm not very book friendly. Simon Sinek's Art of Business. That's a really good one.
What is your favourite film?
Favorite film: The Secret Life of Walter Mitty.
What is your favourite TV show?
TV show. Oh, I am loving Moblands at the moment.
What is your favorite food?
Favorite food? Ooh, if it was a dessert, definitely a pavlova, raspberry pavlova. I've got a bit of a sweet tooth. If it's a main, then probably a lasagna.
If you could move to any country, where would it be and why?
Ooh, favorite country, probably like somewhere like Japan or Australia, just because I just love the culture out there. It'd be really cool.
If you could spend a day with anyone dead or alive, who would it be?
Ooh, I don't know. Somebody like Evil Knievel. That'd be well cool. Just listening to his crazy stories.
If you could be as big as one business, what business would it be?
As big as one business. I don't know. Somebody like Apple, I guess. Huge business. But I don't know whether I want all that responsibility. That's a lot of stress.
Where have been the greatest places in the world that you have traveled to?
Ooh, I've been to some crazy places. Probably Sweden, Norway. Kind of love those kind of Nordic countries, really. They are just absolutely beautiful.
Now that's everything I have for today. So let's wrap it up with thank you for coming on to the podcast today, Pete. It's been a pleasure.
Brilliant. Thanks, Sam, mate. And at some point, you'll have to speak to the teachers, and we'll drag you guys out on an adventure somewhere. Get you jumping off some waterfalls. Yeah, Sam,
Yeah.
you've been brilliant, mate. Excellent job, especially for the first podcast. Thank you, everybody, for tuning in and watching it. And yeah, you've been absolutely amazing, dude. I appreciate it. Thanks
You
for
too.
inviting me on.
Thank you.
Excellent. Bye, bye, mate.
Bye bye.